I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual now. 起立，面向佛堂，参加先鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，参加各位的传习鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。Please be seated.
It is truly a joy to see everyone here with us this morning, and always a pleasure to be here. So welcome. I try to come up with interesting and engaging titles for my talks on Sundays in the hopes that an interesting and engaging title will make everybody somewhat curious about what we're going to talk about. And so Viva La Difference I chose because this morning I felt it was important for us to discuss a couple of things that actually make us different from very many other available spiritual paths out there. The reason that I find it important to have these discussions from time to time is not to attempt to proselytize, persuade, or evangelize. That really is not my purpose here. My job here is to try to help people to understand the value of the authentic Tao teachings and the benefit that those teachings can provide in the lives of those who follow them. The real Tao teachings are not well understood, not even in China where they originated these days, because of a number of factors. And in the West here, not only are the authentic teachings not well understood, but in many cases, the teachings have been interpreted, misinterpreted, manipulated, cajoled, or altered to fit the agendas and goals and wants of an individual who's pushing some kind of a path towards self-motivated gain and greed and who all knows what else. Sometimes the misinterpretations and disinformation occur not out of malice, but simply out of the absence of understanding. There is a considerable barrier to get over in terms of languages and cultures from the East to the West. And on occasion, there are not really good and effective ways to concisely translate some of what Lao Tzu says. And there is a wealth of information in what used to be oral traditions and teachings passed down from masters to students that in the West we just flat never even had access to. The Yiguan Tao is working very hard to change that and make those teachings transparently available to anyone who wants them. But that process in and of itself has caused some confusion, consternation, and conflict, particularly in the web-based community, with some of the people and organizations who think they have a corner on the market for truth, spirituality, and their way of looking at things. I suppose that's not appreciably different than any of the dogmatic separations that have occurred in a number of other traditions. Prior to my discovering the Guandao, I was on my way to becoming a Southern Baptist minister, actually. And in the United States, there are, oh heavens, 30 different sects of Baptist traditions, if there's one. There are just a bunch of them. And the thing that's somewhat odd is that all of them teach essentially the same doctrine, with minor differences in procedure and implementation. The core interpretation of their canon of Scripture is essentially the same from one denomination to the next, but the practice of their traditions and procedures is different. And that alone, those few dogmatic alterations, have been enough to fracture what used to be a cohesive organization into in excess of 30 different subgroups, some of them with extremely vehement views on their practices and teachings. So perhaps it's just the nature of religion on this planet, or spirituality in general, that when people get together to discuss things, how things ought to work and the way things ought to be and how things ought to be taught, that those differences are going to be substantial enough to divide people no matter where you go. I'm hoping that's not the case, and that in this particular set of traditions, we found a way to perhaps stop a lot of that conflict and a lot of that separation. Of late, I know because Derek talks to me, we talk to each other fairly frequently, I've gotten some comments about some of the things that I say here. Some of them regarding the frequency of some of the things that I say, and some of them about the content. And that's okay. I have never once ever said here that any member of this study group shouldn't have their own opinions, their own feelings, their own beliefs and values. You know, those things are important. And in decisions where an individual's spirituality and spiritual path are concerned, those decisions and choices belong to each and every one of you. It's neither my place nor my purview to tell you what to believe, how to believe it, or what to do. And that's never my intent. That being said, I've been involved with the Guandao for quite some time. And I started out a rote novice. It is amazing to me how much I didn't know and how much I didn't know that I didn't know when I started, and how much the process of cultivating the teachings has altered me over the years. When I talk to you guys about the remarkable transformative process that is the result of following these teachings, I'm speaking very largely from my own experience, from what I've seen occur in my life, in the life of my family, and in the lives of the people that are around me. And I measure the progress in my life and the lives of those other people against the standards that the Guandao says should be occurring if the teachings are being followed properly. You see, I've devoted the better part of 40 years to the search for spiritual truth and authenticity. Now, there are some things, there are a lot of things, that are just plain a matter of faith. Things where there are just no way to prove one way or the other whether or not a particular teaching is the truth or not. I cannot prove to you, for instance, whether or not there is a personified God out there somewhere. Can't do it. I can't prove to you whether or not there is a heaven or a hell. There is no evidence that I can bring with me here in any way that demonstrates the reality of those concepts. There's nothing that finitely proves that they exist. And for things like that, all I can tell you is what I believe and why. I can't prove to you that reincarnation occurs. I can tell you that I believe that it does, and I can give you my substantiation for why I believe that is. But I can't prove it. And that brings us to the one big point about what it is that I do here, and in a different set of methods, perhaps also what Derek does. You know, a lot of what we do has to do with separating the truth from the noise. It has to do with separating fact from opinion and belief and disinformation and misinterpretation and all sorts of other things. If you want to know how pervasive the number of misinterpretations of just what Lao Tzu wrote are, all you have to do is Google any chapter of the Tao Te Ching on the internet, and you'll be presented rapidly with at least half a dozen different translations and interpretations for a single chapter of what he wrote. The simple truth of the matter is that when Lao Tzu penned the words that he wrote, there was a specific mental picture that he saw in his mind. There was an idea he was attempting to convey, a point he was trying to make, a lesson he was trying to teach. Usually, the lessons are pretty clear and pretty easy to grasp, but they're couched in phraseology that sometimes makes it difficult to grasp them. And within layers of depth that require successive levels of spiritual refinement to understand. I thought many years ago that my understanding of most of the spiritual texts that I'd read was pretty good. Until I discovered that you can read the same chapter from the Tao Te Ching 6 or 7 times and get 6 or 7 different lessons out of it, depending on your situation, the level of spiritual refinement you've attained, and one's ability to open the mind and the heart and achieve understanding. And when that happened to me the first time, it was astounding. We can only do what Lao Tzu and the people around him at his time did, and the sages that were before him did. And that's to look at the observable universe and see to us what makes sense. And then read the teachings of the sages and the ancient scholars and listen to the words of our modern day masters and teachers and derive from that what makes sense to us today. It is a wonderful and miraculous benefit of the teachings of Lao Tzu that they are as relevant now as they were 2,500 years ago. the principles and procedures and choices and decisions and conduct of life has not changed all that much in those 2,500 years. Principles like integrity and honesty and honor and charity and compassion, those things don't change with time or with nationality or culture or language or anything else. The truth does not change with time. The truth simply exists. Oh, we can all try to deny it. Heaven knows we all do in one way or another in areas of our lives. That's one of the things these teachings try to help us find a way to get through. But the fact that we choose to deny or ignore what we know to be the truth in some cases doesn't mean the truth doesn't exist. The ancient teachings of Lao Tzu ring as true today as they did back then because of that one simple fact. And that makes the teachings valuable. It makes the meaning valuable and precious. It makes the teachings worth hanging on to and worth studying and understanding. Within the Yiguandao, there's a concept that we refer to as the golden thread that binds us together in a particular order of temples. And through that order, an association of ordained masters and non-ordained masters and folks like myself who are essentially laity with a house shrine, who seriously study the teachings and attempt to derive the benefits in life from the study and practice of those teachings. And it is that golden thread that binds us all together, that brings us the access to those simple truths that help us derive those benefits. It is through that golden thread that I came to know Derek and Master William and Master Chin and Master Ku and Senior Master Yang and many others who helped to shape the path of my cultivation all of these years, and to help me learn, first of all, what I didn't know, and second of all, to understand what I needed to know, to set my feet on that wide, easy-to-walk path that so many people miss simply because it's so obvious. You know, because of the variety of interpretations that are available out there for the teachings, it is unbelievably easy to wind up with what we think is a full and complete understanding of ancient Asian mysticism, when in fact all we've done is fallen into the church of what's happening now. The church of what's happening now is one of my favorite Billisms, and it refers specifically to the spiritual path of ease, convenience, and whatever Bill wants to do today, that has nothing whatsoever to do with what Lao Tzu ever really said. It is the New Age spiritual movement that has all of the keyword proficiency and none of the substance of the real honest-to-goodness Tao teachings. Now, how do I know this? Well, it's actually pretty easy to tell. A lot of people don't want to admit it or acknowledge it, but the authentic Tao teachings have rules and responsibilities and obligations. Not a dogmatic set of rules and responsibilities and obligations to an organization that demands certain behaviors or conducts of its members, but to ourselves as cultivators of the Tao teachings. And if one elects to go down the path that I've gone down, to become perhaps Tianzi, or want at some point in time to become an ordained master, however that occurs, then there are other rules and responsibilities. But those are all adopted by choice. And those rules are in place to help us smooth out our lives, to make our relationships better, to help us achieve a full and joyous life in this lifetime. Not in some future ethereal lifetime that we can't identify or ever put our finger on, but right here in the here and now. To straighten out our relationships and kind of lubricate the skids of human interaction. To provide us with spiritual insight and spiritual refinement that allows us to improve ourselves and our minds and our hearts, and to free us from the very forms of dogmatic bondage that I was fixing to become a proponent of when I was on my way to the Southern Baptist Convention. The reason I don't tell you guys what to think or what to believe or how to practice is specifically because creating that kind of a dogma is outside the scope of what we do. But it doesn't mean that we're free to interpret the teachings any way we want or do whatever we want, no matter who it harms. If we can see our way clear to participate in an argument or a debate or a fight or a conflict, if we can look at another person without seeing them through the eyes of compassion, if we can contemplate sacrificing our integrity for a few dollars or some kind of other secular gain, if we can sacrifice another person to make ourselves look better, then we haven't found the authentic Tao teachings. We found the church of what's happening now. The authentic teachings are the path to peace in every aspect of our life. You'll notice that in everything that Derek and I talk about, we never talk about the Tao of poverty or want or oppression or need. That's not part of the teachings of Lao Tzu. We talk about a full and joyous and prosperous life. A life full of happiness and energy and vitality. And yes, wealth. And to the extent that we're able to practice the teachings as they were meant to be practiced, we excel at those things. And I still have an awful lot of learning to do in my life. And so there are areas of my life where my performance in those aspects of the teachings is not quite where I'd like it to be yet. But that doesn't make me depressed and bummed out and suicidal. It simply means I have more practicing to do and more learning to do. And I'm happy to do it. Because along with that path to peace comes the promise of all of the other benefits. And the one huge thing that I've looked at and for my entire life, the answer to the question of how do you create 30 sub-factions out of one Southern Baptist church? You know, these teachings actually contain within them the possibility to unite all people because of the absence of the dogma and the restrictions. It's a matter of adhering to the principles of truth and not to the rules of men. I said first thing out of the chute this morning that the authentic Tao teachings are not well understood, not even in China. That's the truth. If you want to understand the Tao teachings in mainland China right now, I think you pretty much have to go to school and take a course on it. I don't 100% know, but I'm pretty sure that was the result of the Cultural Revolution. And I pray for the day when these teachings are fully restored to the Chinese people, the source from where these teachings come. I think everybody on the face of this planet who desires an opportunity to learn a deeper truth should have the opportunity to hear this. It's one of the reasons we do what we do here online. I can tell you for a fact that these teachings do good things for everybody it touches. I've seen it way too many times in my life and in the lives of others. Yet once again, one of the metrics we can use to determine whether or not that spiritual path is authentic and working. The positive benefits that inure to the people. And as we create understanding of these teachings, we learn to mitigate conflict and to end the confusion and the turmoil that exists within the human heart and mind as we try to figure out how to get through this life. I don't know about everyone else, but in my particular case, being freed from the concept of an eternal heaven or hell, I found to be quite spiritually liberating. Because I'm here to tell you, if we all have to adhere to the Southern Baptist Convention idea of what salvation in this life looks like, we're all going to hell. And for me, the prospect of burning eternally doesn't do me any good. Romans 6:23, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Absolutely we have. Where's the path out of that? Within the Yuan Tao is that path, the path of what makes sense. Now, could I die tomorrow and find out I'm completely wrong? Sure. I absolutely could. But if that happens, I plead the case that I was looking for the truth when I got here. The first sign of progress is the search for the truth. Putting down the dogma, putting down the delusions, the illusions, the agendas, and simply looking for the truth. You see, I know, because I've done it, that it can be difficult to hold on to the authentic Tao. It can be tough to discover the teachings and hard to abide by them. The authentic Tao isn't about what's about easy. It's about what's right. And sometimes what's right isn't what's easy. And so, on a day-by-day basis, sometimes minute by minute, we choose whether we're going to do what's easy or whether we're going to do what's right. Hopefully, most of us choose what's right. It bears keeping in mind that harmonious relationships and peace and happiness and compassion are all indicators of our progress on the Tao path. The cultivation of the Tao teachings and our progress is not a great mystery. It's really pretty easy to observe. One can examine the state of a life, that is, the things that are going on in a person's life at the moment, and determine pretty quickly whether or not that individual is cultivating these teachings and to what extent. That's not judgmental or scary, but it is true. It's one of the things we're called to do in our own lives as we cultivate the teachings, is to stand the mirror up in front of ourselves and say, okay, Bill, how are we doing today? For those who are able to undergo that process of brutally honest self-introspection, that check of how we're doing today is a powerful tool. For those who cannot, it simply is a reflection of the delusion. The other huge part of my job here is to help people to be able to recognize the truth and value of these teachings. To one who has the karmic affinity for the Tao, the value of these teachings, I think, is obvious. To one without the affinity, perhaps maybe not so much. But until the day I die, I'm going to sit here and tell y'all how valuable and how precious these teachings are, and how blessed we are to have them available to us, particularly with the depth of Derek's knowledge and his ability to bring that knowledge to us in English. When I say, and I say it a lot, that the results of practicing these teachings are nearly scientifically reproducible, that's the truth. I'll try to not say it quite so much in the future, but understand the reason for why I say that and for why it's important. Because there are some truths that are absolute. There are some things that need to be taken on faith and grown upon. And this path has value and is worth walking. And I hope with all of my heart and soul that I've helped somebody to find their way down that path or set their feet on it, or that in some kind of a way I've been useful. And I wish y'all a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Sunday, and thank you for letting me share with you.
Bill, thank you. Couple of comments coming in. I would like to relate to you. So from Tim, Bill, personally speaking, I very much appreciated your point of view. You are so right on continuous learning. For example, with Derek's Style of Joy Daily Affirmations, I read it daily every year, and verses seem to take on a new life from one year to the next, depending on my growing understanding of the Tao.
Thank you.
From Trisha, Bill, I have been here most Sundays for many years, and I always treasure and value your teachings and look forward to them each week.
Thank you very much.
From Caroline, glad to see you back. I see some of the Tao truths in other religious texts as well.
Yes, indeed. Happy to be back.
Yeah, and I especially want to say that what Trisha talked about is very close to what I've been thinking about. So if I can reveal to everyone your secret, Bill, of cultivation and understanding the Tao, it's the secret of no secret at all. For many people in our group that have benefited over the years, their secret is the same as your secret, and that secret is the no secret of just showing up. Showing up is half the battle. So to the extent that you're willing to commit to that you're willing to dedicate yourself to that, you will see results in your own lives. I was just talking to a friend of mine who is very depressed. He has been searching, for the truth, Bill, just like you have, for many years. And I know that in recent years he's gone to every claim of speedy results there is in the spiritual scene. One particular master can remove the stain of your karmic obligations. There's another one for, I'm not making this up, for several $1,000s can do a ritual on your behalf to make everything okay. Well, I have to sort of like spoil it for everyone, although it's probably no surprise that he's tried as many things as he could find, and he's gotten absolutely nowhere. And when he and I got to talk about this, he basically, he's like, well, you have the life that I would like to have. You have everything that a man could possibly want. And I found this very flattering. But I told him that the rewards that I have in my life are proportional to the dedication and commitment that I have put into the Tao. So
you and I are in the wrong business.
So for all these years, you and I are the two fixtures. We see people come and go, and then there's a small group of people who have always been around. So that is one of the secrets. Is that you have to be dedicated, even no matter what, you show up, even when you don't particularly feel like it. I'm always going to be here. You guys already know that, and that's because I see the benefits. For me, it took about a year of that dedication to start seeing results, and then after that, I realized that, well, this is what I'm meant to do for the rest of my life. So, Tao cultivation, literally, of lifelong pursuit.
Yes, indeed.
Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架三鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架跪地是一鞠躬， 写班一鞠躬。Okay, everybody, we are done.
Participate in the Tao meeting by joining us online. For information, go to Taoism.net/Tao